It has been more than a year since the COVID-19 pandemic started wreaking havoc across the world. And now the World Health Organization, in its latest update, has mentioned the possibility of an airborne transmission and also specified that it could be transmitted via aerosols. In fact, we have a special panel joining us this evening to tell us what this means. We have Dr. Sanjeev Bagai joining us live. He's a senior pediatrician and chairman of Nephron Clinic. Dr. Zahir Virani, who's a nephrologist and also a member of Maharashtra COVID Task Force. Also joining us in this special broadcast is Dr. Sunil Kumar, who's the Director General Health Services of Government of Delhi. We have a very special panel joining us in this broadcast to take us through what does the latest update by WHO mean. And I would first go across to Dr. Sunil Kumar, who is the Director General Health Services Government of Delhi. So our first question that the viewers would that our viewers would definitely have is that what is the difference between aerosol transmission and droplet transmission?
Namaskar, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to differentiate between the two. पहले तो मैं थोड़ा सा कहना चाहूँगा I am Director General of Health Services Government of India, not Government of Delhi. No,
we apologize for that, sir.
The transmission via the aerosol versus the droplets versus the airborne transmission, there are two different things. When we talk about the droplets infection, the virus is enclosed within the drops, which are very minute and fine drops, which tend to spread out or which tend to come out of our mouth when we speak or when we sneeze or when we cough. That is the droplets. So that they tend to fall. The moment, because they are very heavy, they tend to fall on the ground within a few feet, depending upon the force with which we are coughing or speaking or sneezing. On the other hand, when we talk about the airborne transmission, that means the virus is not contained within the droplets coming out of the person's mouth or nose and the throat. Rather, the viruses are freely circulating in the air just around the person. But it is that the flight is not too much. It is not going to be like that the virus is flying. The virus is flying to a long distance. That doesn't happen. The airborne means that it is free of the droplets. That's the basic difference between the two.
Yes, thank you very much for answering that question. My next question would be to Dr. Sanjeev Bagai. If you could tell us, with COVID now being declared airborne, how much does it increase the risk of transmission?
Good evening. I think for a very long time, since June last year, July last year, it's been known that COVID has been airborne. The recent study of Lancet, which was in end of April this year, and coincidentally an independent study which was published in British Medical Journal and another one in New England Journal of Medicine, again independently and coincidentally around the same time, have just reiterated what we always knew last year, that it is airborne. What is the add-on information which has been given? One is that it is not only airborne, but it travels much longer distance than what was earlier prophesied. So a lot of computerized physical, mechanical and computerized generated images have been analyzed and sequenced and researched, in which the COVID can now travel up to 60 feet. The earlier understanding was 6 feet and then up to 20 feet. By end of last year, now we know that it can travel up to 60 feet, especially in poorly ventilated or closed environments. Point number two is that what is the add-on information this year we have is there is something which is known as long COVID. That means COVID is now proven to have traveled either through the sewage pipes or through the AC ducts, and it is called as long jump COVID. That means it can go and skip couple of rooms and go and infect another person who has not come in contact with you at all, but still is at risk because it is transmissible. And point number three is they've done a lot of correlation studies in which it has shown the speed at which you talk or shout or speak or sing versus the air current in the room, the relative humidity in the room, the ventilation in the room, and so on, which determines how long this can remain suspended in the air. So the durability of this virus, once it leaves the mouth, can be up to 6 to 8 hours. So you may come into a room feeling no one is there. But if someone has been there recently, even an hour or 2 or 3 hours back, and is infected and has infected the environment, you can still be at risk. So it just reiterates and re-stresses that it is airborne. Therefore, wearing a mask becomes even more important.
Yes, absolutely. And now that the WHO has finally admitted that COVID is airborne, there could be no other option but to wear a mask. My next question would be to Dr. Virani, Dr. Zahir Virani. With the developments that have taken place in the last few days, does that mean that the social distancing rule may not be as effective as it was earlier?
As Dr. Bagai just said, that now they feel that the virus travels for up to 60 feet. So the social distancing of 6 meters will not hold true. And Sir has already told us that we have to mask. I would now like to stress that double masking will help you a lot. There was a Niti Aayog had last week released a guideline which said that you have to actually wear mask at homes also. So in certain places where there is a central AC, like Dr. Bagai just said, that it can even skip a room if there is a central AC. So here is the importance of masking. It might be very difficult to mask at your private homes, but any workplace, I think now without masking and especially double masking, we are in trouble. The other thing that we should do, and we should do at light speed, is vaccinate everybody. Because the only way out of this pandemic is to vaccinate.
And another quick question, Dr. Virani, in a follow-up to that, also following up to what Dr. Bagai had said, how would ventilation help in these cases?
So as you see abroad as well, now everything is moving outdoors. So if there is a good circulation of fresh air, the chances of you getting infected are much lower. So now the world is going to change. We had a lot of activities which were held indoors, like concerts. Our restaurants were mostly indoors. But now everything is going to move outdoors till we get over this pandemic. So most of our restaurants, our theater, our leisure activities have to move outdoors. So I think that for the next couple of months to a year or so, most of our activities will have to move outdoors with a good circulation of air. As far as indoor places are concerned, we'll have to use things like negative pressure ventilation, HEPA filters. So those all things will help us a lot. But those things are expensive and cannot be done in places where you go for day-to-day activities. Like all schools will not be able to have negative pressure ventilation and HEPA filters. So for the time being, most of our activities will have to move outdoors.
Yes, and Dr. Sunil Kumar, I'm going to come to you because you're representing Government of India on this panel. So with the recent developments, should government protocols change? If COVID is being declared airborne, would the government protocols change? If yes, how would it change?
The government protocol is already changing, as suggested by my previous speaker. The time to time, the things do change and we bring about the relevant changes, such as how many masks one should wear, how much distance one should be away from. So certainly there is a definite scope for including the latest WHO guidelines, and we'll be looking at the evidence very carefully. We have a mechanism by which the evidence is screened through, is taken into consideration, and deeply analyzed, presented before an experts panel, and then the guidelines are either modified or stay as such, depending upon the outcome of the discussion. Similarly, as far as the other relevant thing which has already been specified by my colleagues who are on the panel, that the vaccination remains the key component of cutting down or breaking down cutting the chain of the cycle of the spread of the infection. So that remains the single most important step which should be kept in the mind and should be taken at its best in the sense that whenever the opportunity arises and your number comes up for the vaccination, it should be utilized without taking any chances. One should be proactively participating in the vaccination program and encouraging the others also, the family members, the colleagues, the friends. So that needs to be emphasized and re-emphasized. As far as the other protocols are concerned, we have been very watchful and extremely watchful about the changes that are brought out in the scientific journals. And whenever they are considered to be appropriate and a change is required, they will definitely be put forth as they have been done. We have already done this in the past, and this will continue to be the trend.
Dr. Sunil Kumar, just a follow-up question to what you were saying and just diverting from the topic of whether COVID is airborne and the measures. As the Director General of Health Services of the Government of India, you have time and again emphasized that there are no side effects of vaccines. Though we have seen certain cases which are sort of amplified by certain groups. Very rare cases though of COVID infections after vaccination process as well. Do we have a specific data to counter the claims made by certain groups? If yes, what are the chances of COVID infection post-vaccination, post both the doses of the vaccine?
Yes, the breakthrough infection is there, but it is in minuscule amount. And the last time we had the data, this data is reviewed every 15 days. So that data is to be reviewed once again after the 15 days or 20 days cycle. But the last time we reviewed that the breakthrough infections are not such a big problem as has been pronounced, as has been amplified. And similarly, the deaths which tend to be reported following the vaccination, they are in really 0.03, something like that. So they are not a major problem. The major problem remains unacceptability, the doubts about its efficacy, safety, etc., etc. The panic. The people tend to do not believe the science behind it. They think that it is an emergency use authorization, which is a wrong concept. The safety and efficacy of these vaccines have already been established, and hence they were given the license to be used and manufactured and used as the vaccine for prevention of this infection. But it's very difficult to change the beliefs of the people. But now I am very happy to say that the acceptance rates and the initial hesitancy have disappeared. The acceptance rates of the vaccine have increased quite a bit to the encouraging results, and people are now coming out openly and demanding the vaccine. So much so that we tend to sometimes get worried about this the supply side. The demand side is increasingly getting more and more and increasing to our happiness, to our satisfaction. But the supply side may become sometimes a challenge, and therefore we are keeping a very close watch on that also, so that a proper balance is maintained and everybody gets the vaccine, so that this infection can be cut off.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Sunil Kumar. Next question would be to Dr. Sanjeev Bagai. Dr. Bagai, if airborne, how is COVID-19 different from other airborne diseases like TB and common cold? Is there if you could tell our viewers if there is a need to panic, because we know of other airborne diseases too, like tuberculosis, common cold, probably measles as well. So how is COVID going to be any different from them?
So COVID is a viral infection. COVID has existed in the world as long as human beings have existed. In terms of human coronaviruses. So human coronaviruses are of different types. It's called as alpha, beta, gamma, delta. This SARS-CoV-2, which is precipitating COVID-19, is the beta coronavirus. Now, beta coronaviruses itself are of 4 different types. The one which is infecting human beings and causing this worldwide pandemic and havoc is the SARS-CoV-2. There are 3 other human coronaviruses of the same category in the same group, which have been endemic in human beings for a long time. That means they coexist with human beings. Now, the initial few days of a viral infection, even SARS-CoV-2, is very much like any other viral infection. You will have a sore throat or maybe a little bit of cold, body ache, headache, not feeling very well. You may have malaise, you may have a little bit of joint pains. This is all part and parcel of a viral infection. Now, how this present second wave is little different as compared to the first wave is that a lot of non-respiratory symptoms have come in, like loose motions, vomiting, diarrhea, conjunctivitis, and so on, skin rashes. And the progression is a lot quicker this year. That means from the time of entry of the virus into your body, the replication phase and then the spread is a lot quicker. And the third major difference is we are seeing a lot of children and young adults being infected in this. But the initial 24-48 hours is very much the same. So my request to everyone is, if you have any symptoms what I have described, immediately isolate yourself. The first point is isolate yourself, wear a mask, contact your local doctor. Timing of the RT-PCR is critical. Don't get it done too early because you may get a false negative. But in the meantime, do not self-medicate apart from paracetamol. Hydrate yourself well. Keep your hygiene immaculately clean. Do not take any unnecessary and overdose of any antibiotic. Do not take any painkillers or any fever medicine apart from paracetamol, and consult your local doctor through a video call or through a Zoom call, and go through the details with your local doctor. He will be the best person to guide you for the specific symptoms. But the bottom line is isolate, mask, don't self-medicate.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Bagaev. My final question in this edition of our coverage would be to Dr. Zahir Virani. Dr. Virani, if COVID is airborne, does that mean that it is going to be a part of our life? Does that mean that we have to make masks also a part of our lives in the long run? Because also we are seeing some nations that are going maskless, like Israel and America. Are they too risking reinfection if this disease is airborne?
So this disease is changing every month, every year, and it keeps giving us new and new surprises. So it's very difficult to predict what's coming in the future. Both my colleagues have already stated what we can do now is more important, and we have to plan for the future. What we can do now is vaccinate. You know, America has literally an epidemic of influenza every year, and they vaccinate every year. We might be stuck with SARS-CoV-2 for a long time, and we might need to vaccinate ourselves every year. We might end up with a quadrivalent vaccine. But this is all speculation. What we have to do right now is to mask, restrict our unnecessary activities, get rid of vaccine hesitancy, and vaccinate as much as possible with whatever vaccine we can get our hands on. And we don't know what the future holds, but there are societies who have worn a mask for a long period of time, like Japan. So if it comes to that, we might end up wearing a mask for a year or two. But eventually, this shall too pass.
Let's hope that this too shall pass. Thank you very much, Dr. Virani. And also Dr. Sunil Kumar and Dr. Sanjeev Bagaev for joining us live and giving us your valuable time and answering our questions. Thank you very much for joining us in this coverage.